The day of the long-awaited departure has arrived. In a few hours, Diana would be in Spain. She had been waiting for this vacation for months. An invitation to board the plane sounded from the speakers. Diana got in line. The line was quite large. Diana looked at the beginning of it and thought that she would have to wait a long time. Although Diana didn't show it, she was very excited. She was practically shaking with her whole body. She even had to clench her hands into fists so the people around her wouldn't see them shaking. Back at home, Vicky's sister Vicky and her husband Edward were giving Diana their last words of advice for the road. They were worried about her, as she had never traveled so far alone. Edward asked her to make sure she called them at least twice a day. Diana resented it. Twice a day. That's practically all the time. She didn't like that kind of control. Diana thought she was old enough. She could vacation in another country on her own, unsupervised. Edward said he was just worried about her. He asked her to call in the morning and around lunchtime. Edward said that if she didn't call at that time, they would assume that something was wrong. After listening to Edward, Diane agreed to everything already, and she also shared with them that she had been working practically off and on for many months to get plenty of rest. She has a lot to look forward to from this long-awaited vacation. Edward reminded Diana that he is her CEO, but asks for a favor to call them in no way as a boss, but as a close relative. He told Diana that he hoped that even on vacation she would learn something new. The plane finally took off. Diana felt all the fatigue she had accumulated come over her in an instant. Finally, the excitement made itself felt. Diana tried to calm down a little emotionally and relaxed in her seat. Diana was awakened by a violent jolt. It felt like the airplane was being tossed from side to side. She gripped the armrests tightly. Diana became frightened. There was a commotion around her. Everyone around her was shouting and fussing. Diana was even more scared. She didn't know what was going on. "Ladies and gentlemen, our plane is entering a turbulence zone." A voice from the speaker tried to calm people down. The sound of breaking glass was heard. The voice from the speaker asked people not to leave their seats and to fasten their seatbelts. Diana decided to heed that advice. The airplane tilted downward. Things, bags, and books flew from the top shelves. From Diana's purse, right at her feet, fell her bright red lipstick. He was the one who'd given Diana that lipstick. He loved stroking her painted lips. He always said it was the color of lipstick that suited Diana. The memory reverberated with an ache in his chest. Once he'd even asked Diana to use only that lipstick. The plane leveled out. It stopped shaking. All around, all the people were picking up their belongings from the floor. They kept asking each other if they were okay, if they were bruised. The panic was starting to subside. Diana took a deep breath. She tried to calm down, to pull herself together. Diana convinced herself that the worst was over. Diana hurried out of the airport building. She felt tired, as she hadn't been able to sleep a wink during the flight. She wanted to get to her hotel room as soon as possible. Diana approached the gray-haired cab driver. He was quite a talkative man. He snatched the bags out of Diana's hands and put them in the trunk. The hotel was posh. It looked something like the palaces of past centuries. Everything looked expensive, as they say, rich. Diana picked up her suitcases and headed for the entrance. After looking around inside, Diana concluded that Pellis was most likely the architect. Diana was grateful to Edward, for he had made this trip and her stay at the hotel a reality. Diana couldn't be pleased, for the furnishings inside were pleasing to the eye. Diana walked up to the front desk. She took out the necessary documents and put them on the counter. The girl at the front desk asked if Diana had come alone, or if someone would join her afterwards. She explained that the room was booked for 2 people. Diane had to tell her that her sister couldn't make it. Vicky was pregnant, so this trip would be hard on her. "Congratulations!" exclaimed the girl at the front desk. Continuing to enjoy the interior of the hotel, Diane headed to her room. As Diana stepped out of the shower, she heard something vibrating in her suitcase. It was a text message from her sister Vicky. She wrote that she was very worried about Diane. She was worried that Diana was so far away, asking if she could manage on her own in a foreign country. Diana decided to reassure her sister. She asked her sister not to worry, as she knows Spanish. She even decided to make a little joke. She told her sister not to distract her. Maybe Diana could find a hot Spanish man here. Diana continued her correspondence with her sister by the pool. Her sister insisted that Diana should find a fiancé. Diana replied that she didn't even have time for work, let alone a fiancé. Diana put the phone aside. She had come here to relax after all. The water was a pleasant temperature. Diana closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This was a nice place after all. Opening her eyes after a while, Diana noticed that she was not alone in the pool. Across from her sat a young man. He was also enjoying himself, leaning his head on his chest. Diana was both startled and confused at the same time. She hadn't expected to see someone in the pool. Diana thought she was completely alone here. The man started to rise, grabbing a towel lying nearby. He rose to his full height, wrapping the towel around himself. Diana was embarrassed. The man started to walk towards her. Diana felt her body shudder slightly. "Who the hell are you? What are you doing here? Don't come near me!" screamed Diana. The man stopped. He apologized to her for scaring her, asking her to pretend nothing happened. "Not that I'm stressed about the situation, but I don't have the energy for a scandal," the man continued. Diana didn't relent. She didn't understand what was going on here, or what he was doing here. The man moved closer to her. He said that even if it was an accident, she was already involved in the chairman's business. He is not going to get involved in any way in this whole situation, much less deal with it. The man also asked that Diana pack all her things and leave the hotel as soon as possible. "Listen to me!" exclaimed an indignant Diana. "This time it's the dark one. How much longer is the chairman going to play me?" thought to himself Justin. The man continued walking. He didn't stop at Diana's voice. She had to speak louder. "Stop and listen to me." Finally, the man turned toward her and turned his attention to her. Diana had to explain to him that she didn't know what he was talking about at all, and she doesn't know who he is at all. Diana proceeded to indignantly ask him if he even realized where he was, if he was sure he was supposed to be here. After these words, Justin was already confused. He didn't expect such an onslaught and thought these questions were inappropriate. Diana turned around and went to her room. Thus she gave the man the opportunity to get dressed and leave this room as soon as possible. It is worth noting that her acting is admirable. She's wagering so well that she doesn't know me, I even believed it a bit, Justin thought to himself. In room 337, across from each other at a table sat Justin and Diane. Next to them stood the hotel manager and the front desk girl. They were trying to explain that there had been an unfortunate mistake. This room was booked for 2 people, so it just so happened that Justin and Diane were the 2 of them here. Diana was very surprised. This hotel had a good reputation, and she didn't understand how they could have made such an oversight. The hotel manager explained that there had been a change in guest room management last week. Justin sat in silence for a long time, listening to them. Eventually, he inquired about what they were offering. The girl manager explained that unfortunately this hotel has more rooms available. Also, there are no vacant rooms in nearby hotels and inns as well. She suggested that one of the 2 of them stay in her apartment. The manager promised that she would take care of all the expenses for this room. She would live elsewhere while one of these guests stayed in her apartment. Diane was very upset. She realized that she had no other options at the moment. She couldn't return home either, as she had wanted to attend the festival for a long time. Schmug, schmug. Next to her, Diana heard someone crying and constantly sniffing her nose. It was the girl from the front desk. Diana felt sorry for the girl. She decided to cheer her up, patted her on the shoulder and told her to calm down. After all, tears can't help grief. They would definitely think of something and find a way out of the situation. Justin watched Diana from the side. He couldn't understand if it was really a stranger who had gotten into such an ugly situation, or if it was just an act. And this girl was being sent to him by the chairman. Diane asked the manager if she could vouch for Justin. The manager said she could give her account, to which Justin parried that he too was curious about who Diane was. The hotel manager assured Diane that she could be at her apartment in 2 hours. Diane replied that she was tired and had no energy. The room was very large, and the only space where they could meet Justin was the hallway. The room was really big. It had 2 floors and its own pool. Diane got up from the table, apologized to everyone, and said she was really sleepy. She said she would get settled on the 2nd floor. Justin was pleasantly surprised by Diane's behavior. Not only was she not angry, she was also comforting the hotel workers. Without raising a scandal, she quietly retired to her room. This girl interested him. The next morning, Diana decided to walk around the city to take pictures of its beauty. On the table in the hallway, she saw scattered books, notebooks. She hurriedly left the room to avoid being seen by her roommate. At the front desk, Diane was met by the hotel manager. She said that Mr. Wilson had left as early as 6 a.m. to run errands. He showered in the gym on the second floor of the hotel. She assured Diane that Justin wouldn't inconvenience her. Diane decided that the manager's reassurance was so-so. After all, she knows absolutely nothing about Justin. Maybe he has a girlfriend. That would get him in trouble. Maybe he's got some weird tendencies. I don't know what to expect from him. The manager saw that Diana was hesitating. She offered to help Diana pack her things and move into her apartment. Diana replied that she would do it herself by the evening. The city was really beautiful. Diana photographed every building, and as an architect, she was interested in every building. Finally, she reached the sea. There was a very beautiful sunset. Families with children and couples in love were walking everywhere. Suddenly, someone pushed her from behind. Diana tried to keep her balance and focused completely on it. She didn't notice the man throw something into her purse. The man apologized, noticing that Diana was a foreigner. He began to ask her where she was from, if she wanted to have dinner with him. The girl declined the offer. When Diana returned to the room, Justin was typing something on his laptop. The girl apologized for the disturbance and asked Justin if she could have dinner in the room. After all, she was the one moving out of the room, so she wanted to enjoy room service before she left. Justin replied that he didn't mind at all, and he had already ordered food for her arrival. This way, Justin wanted to make up for the rudeness he had shown when he met her. Wow, so you can apologize. Honestly surprised me. Diana decided to scoff slightly. She was annoyed by his self-assurance. Justin ordered a large amount of food for the room. Diana even wondered if they would be able to eat it all. Diana worked up an appetite. She decided to try everything on the table. Seeing Justin's surprised look, Diana decided to justify herself. She said she was probably hungry because she'd been through turbulence. Justin was surprised by her straightforwardness. Justin asked why Diane was traveling alone. She looks very young, isn't she scared in a foreign country? Diane told Justin that her sister is pregnant, that's first of all. And second, she's not as young as she looks. Diane thanked Justin for dinner, saying that she absolutely loved all the dishes. Justin also admitted that he'd enjoyed himself a lot. Diane had to admit to Justin that he wasn't as rude as he had seemed to her in the beginning. In response, Justin told her that he was pleased to hear those words. He would consider them a compliment. To continue the conversation, Justin started asking her about the city, whether she liked the local sights or not. Diana decided to show Justin the pictures she had taken. Her face lit up with happiness. She admired even the most mundane things. Justin enjoyed listening to the girl. Justin addressed Diana with the word Miss. Diana smiled and said that since they had already had dinner and would have to part soon, they should at least learn each other's names. Justin took a seat next to Diane. He told her that he spends almost all of his time in his office. He doesn't get back until 7 o'clock at night. The next few days I'll probably even spend evenings in the office, so you won't feel uncomfortable here, Justin told her. How do you feel about just the two of them staying in this room together? Justin decided that they wouldn't bother each other at all. Diana was a little surprised at that suggestion, but Justin continued, "Let's give it a try, though, see if it works." The girl decided to agree. While talking passionately, Justin and Diana could not think that someone was taking their picture. At the same time, the tracker in Diana's bag was transmitting her exact coordinates to someone. Across town, a dark male silhouette in a room was looking at something on a tablet. Suddenly, the man became very angry and threw the tablet to the floor. The screen cracked. The tablet was frozen with a picture of Diana having a sweet conversation with Justin. The man's heel crushed the already broken tablet with a violent crunch. This situation was making him extremely angry. "Diana, you can't do this to me," hissed the man into the tablet's off-screen. Diana sat leaning against the wall, shaking with fear. The man sat across from her. He was furious. She had never seen him like this before, and it made her scared. The man whispered for her to kiss him and leaned over her. His eyes burned with rage. He grabbed her head and pulled her forcibly closer to him. Diana started to struggle. She tried to free herself from his embrace. Suddenly, he pushed her away sharply. She flew onto her back and hit her head as she fell. The man laughed out loud. He enjoyed watching a humiliated Diana. Diana got to her feet and tried to run out of the room. "You can never run away from me, Diana," shouted the man at her back. The man caught up with her and told her that she knew exactly what happens to people who get in their way, even if it's one's own family. The girl got even more scared and started yelling for him to stop. Justin heard a scream on the second floor. It was Diana screaming, and she was telling someone to stop. Justin ran up the stairs to the top of the stairs. He knocked on the door, but the girl didn't answer him. Justin called out her name. Justin started ramming even harder, trying to open the doors. He pulled on the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. It was locked. Finally, he managed to get into the room. The girl was sitting on the bed and was very scared. Justin crouched down next to her and tried to find out what had happened. Justin took Diana by the shoulders and tried to rouse her. The girl was lethargic, with fear and desperation in her eyes. Justin wrapped his arms around her head. He tried to comfort her in a soft voice. Finally, Diana came to her senses. My leg, whispered the girl. Justin pulled back the blanket to look at what was wrong with the girl's leg. He took Diana's leg in his hands and began to examine it. Justin said that the leg seemed to be okay. Diane pulled her leg and asked him to stop. She kept having the same dream over and over again, and each time her leg hurt badly after the dream. Diana dreamed about running and falling. She always felt scared after waking up. Justin held out a blanket to Diana. It was deep into the night, so she should have slept for a while longer. Diane admitted to Justin that she was uncomfortable and embarrassed that he had seen her like this. He said it was no big deal and hurried out of the room. I am truly grateful to you, Diane said in his wake. Justin was extremely curious to know what the girl had dreamt. She looked extremely frightened, but he decided it would be awkward to ask her about it. To lighten the mood, Justin said that he liked to see her embarrassed. Diane decided to ask Justin out to the restaurant. She was embarrassed that night that he had seen her in such a state. She was grateful to him for showing her concern. Justin decided to ask Diana what dream she had had. He explained his interest by the fact that she looked extremely frightened. He was curious as to what had frightened her so much. The girl confessed that from time to time, when she was very tired, she dreamed about the college she had attended. Diana decided to stop talking about this topic, said that it was not worth talking about it. Diane decided to take the conversation in another direction. She asked Justin how he manages to keep himself in such shape. Where does he find time for sports in his busy schedule? Justin wondered. He asked why she thought he was active in sports. Diana replied that it is impossible to live a life of work while keeping your body in such a shape. She believes that in order to keep fit, you need exercise. Sport is the best way to do this. Justin also responded to her with a compliment. He said that she has a good physical shape too. He explained to her that when he massaged her legs, he noticed that they were quite firm. Those words embarrassed Diane. Diane told Justin that she likes to walk. She has a fairly active job and also does light strength training about 3 times a week. Justin, why do you ignore all my calls? Why don't you ever pick up the phone? A gray-haired woman appeared next to them. Chairman, how did you end up here? Justin exclaimed. Well, actually a grandmother, not a chairman, the woman began. And if you'd given me a heads up right away that you'd be dining with a nice lady, I wouldn't have had to call your secretary and find out where you were. Diana introduced herself as her name and told her that she was just here on vacation. Edith, the gray-haired woman introduced herself. I'm Justin's grandmother, Edith smiled. Looking at Diana, Justin's grandmother couldn't believe that they just happened to be in the same room. She didn't want to believe it was the hotel's fault. Back at the receptionist's office, Edith learned that Diana was an architect. She decided to check it out. Edith asked if she knew Santiago Caltra. Diana clarified that Edith was asking about the architect Santiago Caltra. After receiving an affirmative answer from Diane, Justin's grandmother calmed down. There was indeed a young female architect in front of her. Edith turned to Justin. She reminded him of her upcoming birthday, told him she would be happy to see him and really hoped he would still come. After Edith grabbed Diane's hands, she asked that she also attend. Justin took his grandmother by the shoulders and told her that it was time for her to go already. Although Diane liked Justin's grandmother, she decided to decline the invitation. The girl felt that she would be superfluous to the event. Edith still decided to persuade Diana to come. She told her that the event would be held at her estate. Santiago himself had designed her house. He not only worked on the exterior of the building, but also thought out every detail inside. Edith allowed Diana to take pictures of everything. Diana thought about Edith's suggestion. She liked Santiago's work. Diane would like to see Edith's estate and examine every detail inside the house. Diane reasoned that it would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Diana agreed. Edith was delighted, but Justin, on the contrary, did not like the idea. Diana couldn't decide on a dress for a long time. She had no idea what to wear for Edith's birthday. On top of that, Diana was also embarrassed because Justin's grandmother had given her all the dresses. She asked Edith's assistant to return all the dresses to the chairman, thanking her for the opportunity to try on so many beautiful dresses. The assistant replied that Edith had warned her that Diana might refuse to accept the gift. The chairwoman demanded that she insist that Diana still go in one of the dresses. So that Edith's assistant wouldn't have a problem, Diane opted for the black outfit. The only thing that made her uncomfortable was the deep neckline on the back. She asked the assistant if she should put a shawl around her shoulders. The assistant said it would be unnecessary. The assistant was slightly amused by the girl's modesty. After all, usually at such parties everyone wants to be bright and stand out. In the end, Diana, having tried on absolutely everything, decided on a long beige dress. In her opinion, it was as modest as possible. Justin showed up and told Diane that she probably wouldn't feel comfortable at the event. She replied that he was right. Diane said that she was just now starting to realize what a mistake she had made. She asked Justin if there was anything he could do to influence the developments. Justin replied that if Diane didn't go, she wouldn't get to see Santiago's work. He reminded the girl that that was why she had decided to attend the event. The girl asked Justin what gift to present to his grandmother. To us, that he replied that the grandmother always does everything in her own pleasure, and the fact that Diana will be present at her birthday will already be a gift for her. Justin Silver's driver noticed the tiredness in his boss's eyes. He said that the hotel representatives had a lot of requests and conditions to discuss. Justin said he didn't expect anything different, because the owners had put their hearts into the hotel. Silver asked Justin to at least get some sleep to get in shape. Justin asked Silver where the coastal park that Pellis had designed was. He asked for a ride there. The driver was surprised at the request, since it was still 3 hours before he could meet Pellis. Justin demanded that Silver stop the car. He just wanted to get some fresh air. Justin just wanted to see Diane. She mentioned that she was going for a walk in the park that Pellis had designed. The girl was sitting in the water on a surfboard looking at the setting sun. Diana was brazenly pulled out of her musings by someone's hand grabbing her leg. The girl fell into the water. When she dived out, you saw 3 young guys beside her. They were acting cocky, trying to hit on her. "Are you here alone?" asked one of the 3. Diana got angry at the guys. She decided to ignore their words. Diana figured that if she didn't answer them, they would quickly get bored and drift away. In order not to further inflame the situation, the girl decided to go on land. But Diana was out of luck. Those 3 followed her example. They said they heard her speaking Spanish, so they decided to socialize with her. Diana realized she couldn't get any further away from the answer. She turned around and said she wasn't going to talk to them, as her boyfriend would be approaching her soon. The guys pretended to be extremely disappointed. The guys said they had been watching her for some time, and they noticed that she was alone all the time. They asked not to be fooled, and suggested they go to a place where there are huge waves. A particularly brazen red-haired guy snatched her bag out of Diana's hands. "Just be a doll and come with us. There's nothing to break here." These words of the redhead extremely angered Diana. She tried to wrest her bag from his hands. Eventually, the aggression in Diana took over reason. The girl ceased to control herself. She remembered all the Spanish foul language. Diana launched into an angry tirade, swearing at the guys like a cobbler. People were watching from the sidelines, but Diana didn't care. One of the guys wanted to hit her. Diana pulled out her cell phone and started filming the whole thing. "Who the hell are you guys?" Diana heard a man's voice behind her. "Why are you picking on my girlfriend? What do you want with her?" Justin asked the 3 insolent guys. From surprise, Diana almost dropped her phone from her hands. She didn't expect to see Justin here. The guys hurried away, telling Diana that she could have warned them about the groom. In a few minutes, Justin and Diana were already chatting sweetly on the lounge chairs under the palm trees. The girl thanked Justin for his help. Diane was embarrassed. She both liked that Justin called her his girlfriend, and at the same time felt awkward. Justin replied that it was no big deal and asked Diane if that happened to her often. The girl admitted that such events in her life do not happen often. This is only the second case that happened to her in Spain. "And how did you manage to get away from the guys the first time?" Justin asked. Diana answered him that she simply pretended not to understand. She pretended that she didn't understand Spanish. She didn't manage to fool the guys this time since they could hear her talking. Diane noticed that Justin was starting to get angry. She asked him what was going on. Justin said she thought she was imagining things. "He's not angry at all. and he thinks it's normal for the person sharing a room with you to ask about situations that are dangerous. Diane decided to tell Justin that she felt awkward about him calling her his girlfriend, to which Justin parried that he simply had no other choice. He didn't know what to say to those cocky guys. Justin also wondered why Diana was focusing her attention on the part where he called her his girlfriend. He simply helped her, and she might just be grateful to him. The girl replied to him that she didn't want to see him as jealous. In the evening, Diana received a call from her sister. She found out how she was doing and complained that she regretted the missed opportunity to visit Spain. In response, Diana confessed that everything in Spain was much more interesting than she had expected. Justin and Diana left the hotel and drove to his grandmother Edith's estate. The building turned out to be gorgeous. Diana hadn't even expected to see such beauty. She had no regrets about coming here. At the doorstep of the house, Justin and Diane were greeted by Edith. She complimented Diana on the dress she had chosen, saying that it suited her very well. She knew Diana would choose it. Justin was a little jealous of his grandmother and Diana. He said that Diane's beauty had blinded her, and he was invisible to her. Already indoors, Diane asked Justin for a favor. She didn't want to draw too much attention to herself and asked Justin to help make it happen. He promised to do his best. He also admitted that it would be quite difficult to do so. After all, he has been the center of attention all his life, and soon she will see for herself. Justin and Diane put masks over their eyes and entered the party room. Overnight, everyone in the hall turned their heads in the direction of Justin and Diana. From this turn of events, Diane went into a stupor. Justin took her hand and led her down the stairs. Seeing the girl squirming, Justin asked her to trust him. He asked her to relax and enjoy what was happening. The girl replied that she was unlikely to be able to do that. The gazes of everyone around them were directed in their direction. Diana felt like a bug under a microscope. Justin said she would feel much better if she would just look his way and ignore the people around her. Justin pulled the girl against him and spun her around in a dance. You need to focus your attention during the dance on your partner. And remember, as long as the music is playing, he's all yours. Well, if that's the case, then as long as the music is playing, I'm all yours. The woman in black watching them said that Diana didn't realize who Justin was yet, and at the moment she's living in an idiot's paradise in her fantasies. Justin and Diane went out on the balcony to cool off a bit. The girl took off her shoes and admitted that she had worn such high heels a long time ago. Diana does not understand how it can be comfortable in such shoes. Unexpectedly for Diana, Justin took her by the waist and pulled her to him. He wanted to be with this girl, wanted her to belong only to him. Possessive feelings must have awakened in him, previously unknown to him. Diana sharply pushed him away. Justin was surprised at this turn of events. He didn't understand why she reacted that way. To somehow diffuse the situation, Diana said that she probably had too much to drink. She could use to go back to the hall and take some more pictures of the interior. She quickly put on her shoes and left. There was a group of girls standing near the balcony doors. They were blocking Diana's passage. The girl in black asked how long Diane had known Justin. The question caught Diana off guard. What did that have to do with it? Who were they anyway? What did they want with her? The girl in black continued, I should probably make this clear. The thing is, Justin and I had a relationship a while back. I just want to warn you, Justin is always interested in something new, unexplored. To him, you're a novelty that you want to consider. But as soon as he gets bored with you, he'll find another toy. He'll throw you out. Justin's pretty unique. He can be hot and cold at the same time, so be careful with him. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Diana didn't like this girl's words. What did it have to do with her? She tried to say goodbye and leave as quickly as possible. A shout sounded in Diana's wake. You just don't realize where you are. You're living in your own rose-colored fantasies. I simply felt it was my duty to warn you. Diana still decided to look into the situation. She even wondered what the lady in black wanted from her. The girl in black said it was immediately obvious to her. As soon as Diana walked into the room under the arm of Justin in that dress, she realized the girl was caught in the net. Most likely even the costume, jewelry, and shoes were bought for you by Justin, said the lady in black and stepped on Diana's foot. Yes, you are right. Everything I'm wearing, it was all given to me by Justin. But it's not because we're in a relationship. It's just that he's special, with amazing taste. And I, as you can see, am the most ordinary. Diana decided to make things clear. Unlike you, I'm not afraid to show my face. You're the one hiding behind a mask. I'm not afraid to be independent, and I won't live under a man's authority." Diana continued, "If you have anything you want to say about Justin, if you have any complaints or questions about him, you can address it directly. There is no need to play any dirty games behind his back." Decided to side with Justin Diana. "You're delusional," laughed the girl in black. Diana got bored with this talk and hurriedly retreated. "Well, if you want to play, let's do that," said the girl in black, taking the mask off her face. But Diana didn't hear her. She was already far away. "As much as I dislike this conversation, the building is really beautiful, and one can get maximum pleasure just by looking at it," Diana thought to herself, and started taking pictures of the chandelier. Diana was tired of the whole environment, of talking to people, so she hurriedly left. She changed her clothes and went for a walk around the night city. Her feet led her to a small jazz bar. It was quite crowded, with quiet music playing. Diana ordered herself some mulled wine and stood watching the elderly pianist. Although outwardly Diana seemed calm, a hurricane of feelings raged inside her. Her heart was out of place. The words of that lady in black had affected Diana's inner state. Maybe the girl was right. She really didn't know Justin. "Good evening," Diana heard a pleasant male voice beside her. The pianist noticed that the girl was sitting upset. He went over to ask her if the reason for her bad mood was his less-than-perfect playing. The girl assured him that it was okay. The reason was not the music. The man said he was glad of that. He asked her where she was from, what she did for a living, said she likes foreign languages. Diana also admitted that she likes to learn another culture. The conversation was going quite easily. Suddenly the man moved closer to her. It seemed to her that his eyes were bloodshot. It frightened her. The man reminded her of a constant nightmare, where she kept running away, falling, where the dark male silhouette promises not to let her go, and laughs a terrifying laugh all the time. The girl tried to stand from the stool, but she couldn't keep her balance and fell on her back. She ran out of the bar and started running. Diana ran with her head held low. Suddenly she found herself in Justin's strong arms. "Justin? What are you doing here? How did you know I was here?" Diane asked him. Justin admitted that he didn't know where she was. He simply assumed that she wanted to go for a walk around town after his grandmother's birthday party. Suddenly, she came at him from around the corner. "I can't just walk away. I can't leave it like this, unresolved. I've done it all the time before. I can't let this happen again," Diana thought to herself. She asked Justin to wait for her and headed towards the bar. Justin stopped her by taking her hand. He looked toward the bar and motioned for Diane to go together. In the crowd of people, Justin noticed a young boy. As soon as Justin turned back in his direction, the young man darted away. Justin ran after him. He caught up to the kid and grabbed him by the hood. "Who the hell are you?" Justin, Diana, and Silver were in the car. That suspicious kid in the crowd turned out to be a regular paparazzi. He was following Justin and Diana. He had a lot of pictures of them together on his laptop. Silver wondered if the paparazzi had started following Justin since they'd learned about the merger. He didn't understand why they would do that, or what it would affect. It seemed to Justin that the day was going on forever. He felt very tired, so he asked Silver to take him to the hotel. Diane sat on the bed in her room and also thought about the day gone by. Strange things had been happening to her lately. "Is it all happening again? I thought I was done with the past." Justin sat in the dark room, drinking wine. He wanted to figure out how he felt about Diana. He clearly liked this girl. She was naive and at the same time determined. Diana decided to leave her room and go to the kitchen for a drink of water. Downstairs in the darkness, she saw Justin. He was also awake. Justin admitted to the girl that he wanted a drink too. Diane went downstairs to Justin. She thanked him for not being afraid to get involved in her problems. She said that he was awesome. Justin also confided to her that he thought she was amazing too. She combines completely opposite character traits, but at the same time, she is wary of her because of the fact that she doesn't talk about her problems and fears. Justin told her that he was surprised by her reaction on the balcony. He expected anything from her touch, but not the sadness that was in her eyes. He considered Diana a danger to himself. "Now I'm going to start counting to 3. If you have the same feelings for me that I have for you, you'll go down 1 step. 1, 2, 3. The girl remained standing still. Justin turned around to walk away. He said he understood her, suggested she go up to her room to rest. Diane grabbed Justin's arm. She quickly, so he wouldn't realize what was happening, pulled him to her and kissed him on the lips. Justin was dumbfounded. "I'll probably regret what happened afterward," whispered Diana. "But it will be too late," Justin told her. Kissing her constantly, Justin led Diana to her room. Diana was soothed by Justin's every move. She loved everything about him, his skin, his hands, his subtle scent. She could feel his warm breath on her. "I'll stop any time if that's all you want. Just tell me that," said Justin, looking into Diana's face. "You talk too much." Time stood still for a moment, letting Diana and Justin, at least for that moment, be real. Diana opened her eyes. The sun was shining brightly outside the window. She felt comfortable in Justin's arms. It was nice to feel his warm breath on her shoulder. Diana started to get up from the bed, but Justin stopped her. He asked her to lie next to him a little longer. Diana sat up on the bed and said, "Enough sleep. You could sleep all day that way." To which Justin parried that she was the reason he didn't sleep well that night. That's why he didn't get enough sleep. Justin reached for Diana's lips again to kiss her. The girl was totally fine with it. "Diana, do you know the meaning of my name? It means mighty protector. It is now that I have begun to realize its meaning and appreciate it." "Ha, how funny that sounds. Justin, you're really shameless. The important thing is that I made you laugh. Will you spend tonight with me?" "I'll think about it." Diana went downstairs to get breakfast. "And since when did she start having nightmares?" asked Justin's good friend and part-time psychologist Thomas. "Most likely since her college days. I'm wondering if it's even treatable." "Sure. Just about anything can be cured these days. The main thing is that the patient has to be willing to get rid of the nightmares. The only thing that will be required is that you'll need to bring her to me." Justin wondered if he could do that. He didn't know how Diana would react to the fact that he wanted her to talk to a psychologist. For her meeting with Justin, Diane decided to wear a black dress. Justin praised her for her choice. He said she looked different in that dress. Justin put his arm around the girl's waist. He said he was blown away by her beauty and offered to stay in the room. "No, that's not going to work out. I'm already in the mood for a walk." Diana loved just walking around the city with Justin like this. And even if it was just a dream, an ordinary fantasy, so be it. Being with Justin was the best thing that had happened to her in Spain. After the walk, they went to a restaurant for dinner. The restaurant was not crowded. Justin was surprised, as it was usually crowded. A woman approached their table. She placed a Forbes magazine on their table. Justin's statuesque silhouette graced the cover. Diana didn't take her eyes off the magazine. She felt confused again, not understanding what was going on around her. "Do you even know how to eat that right?" the stranger asked Diana. Jonathan looked up at the stranger and asked the stranger if she was the one who hired the paparazzi. "A trial based on photos is going to be quite long." Justin's eyes blazed with anger. Diane's phone rang and she apologized and left the table. Diana was shocked that Justin was the CEO of a hotel chain for Spain. She was also uncomfortable with this incomprehensible scandal that was going on between Justin and a stranger. Diana picked up the phone. It was Vicky's sister, Vicky, calling her. She had decided to share the good news with Diane. It turned out that Diane had won a rather prestigious architectural award. Diane had applied for it before she left. Now Diana was overcome with joyous emotions. They equalized the negative ones that were before, and Diana returned to the restaurant with her head held high. As she approached the table, Diane asked Justin, "Are you really what the stranger says you are? Could their pictures together really affect his deal?" Justin reassured her that his company was pretty solid, and some magazine article wouldn't affect his reputation in any way. Diana felt sorry for the stranger. She remembered seeing her at Edith's birthday party. The stranger was wearing a black dress, a black mask over her face. "Do you really want to possess Justin so badly that you're willing to ruin his life? Do you really hope to get his attention for yourself that way?" Diana asked the stranger. "If you don't feel strongly about writing a magazine article about Justin, then describe the story of our romantic relationship." "Anna, you've always called me possessive, but have you ever wondered if I want my property to be you?" Justin rose from the table. Diane motioned for Justin to get out of here. She was sick of this unpleasant conversation. Outside, and Diane admitted to Justin that he had surprised her. Now she understood why he said he was the center of attention all the time. Justin apologized to her for inadvertently being dragged into the scandal. Justin led Diana to the highest point in the city. It was from here that she could see the streets burning with colorful lights. What she saw took Diana's breath away. "I'm so happy!" shouted the girl. Justin walked up to Diana and put his arm around her waist. He pulled her tightly against him. Justin started kissing Diana hotly on her shoulders, her neck. Diana began to slowly undo the buttons of his shirt. The girl pulled Justin by the arm toward the car. He didn't resist. In the car, they continued kissing. Diana's kisses were quite demanding. Justin even thought that the girl would play with him and then simply go home. He would only remain in her mind as a good memory. You talk about happiness so often that I think you're only pretending. These thoughts whirled through Justin's mind. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson. The entire team stood up and said hello to Justin. Justin began the meeting. The whole team had decided a long time ago about a merger and takeover of the Palace Hotel. But just recently the team had asked him to contract with another hotel. Justin wondered what the reason was. His right hand, Maria, told him that Vines Group declared bankruptcy, so their hotels would be cheap. Justin didn't understand why the Vines Group had gone bankrupt. He had big concerns about it. He said he would refuse to purchase their hotels for now. He praised everyone for a job well done and left the office. When did he have time to prepare and figure everything out? He outsmarted all of us again. A whisper was heard behind the departing Justin. In the elevator, Driver Silver asked Justin if he was leaning toward purchasing the Palace Hotel just because he and Diane were staying there. Justin replied to him that he didn't mix work with personal matters. He sent the driver home, taking his car keys from him. Justin arrived to pick up Diane from the architecture festival. There was a small carnival going on downtown today. That's where Justin decided to take Diana. The girl liked the carnival. There were a lot of tents with food, balloons, and happy people in the square. Justin and Diane decided to take a portrait together. Justin asked the girl how she liked traveling more, together or alone. Diana answered him that walking like this together with him, she feels happiness twice as much. She is very happy at the moment. Justin replied that he believed her this time. At one place in the square, there was a particularly large crowd of people. There, a man in a suit with a mask over his face was sitting on a barrel. He was demonstrating a weapon. Diana was very tempted to join the crowd. The gunsmith was broadcasting in a loud voice, "Fate cannot be changed even after many years, but directs to the one who awakens you. You know that the loss of your love will sadden you, and yet you fall in love again." Diana took a few steps back. "How did you end up here?" she whispered with whitened lips. The gunsmith pointed the gun in Diana's direction. "Go back home," said the gunsmith, removing the mask. "No, no," screamed Diana. A red car was racing through the center of town. There were two people sitting in it. A demure girl, Diana, and a blonde-haired man, Robert. "I can't say exactly when it happened, but I've been having a lot of accidents around me lately." "Did you know Jimmy was in a fire?" Diane asked Robert. She turned her head towards Robert. His face expressed extreme annoyance. She decided to ask him if he was angry because she had decided to change the subject. "That's exactly why I'm angry. You do this all the time. How many times have I asked you not to interrupt me, not to change the topic of conversation? Have you ever wondered why Jim would confess his feelings for you? Have you thought about John?" Robert kissed his teeth. Diana gripped the handle of the car tightly. She was startled by this behavior from Robert. Diane wondered why he had started the subject, why he remembered for Jim and John. The car didn't slow down. Robert asked Diane if she had ever thought about why the men around her sometimes got in trouble. Hadn't she thought about the fact that sometimes her behavior led to accidents? "Is it really all your fault?" Diana was startled at her own speculation. Diane pulled her cell phone out of her purse to call the police. Robert guessed what she wanted to do. He turned to her and asked if she thought that if she dialed the police, she would go along with him as an accomplice. Robert took Diane's hand and asked what she thought she should do to keep the people around her safe. Diane whispered quietly that she was willing to give up socializing with them. She would only socialize with him, Robert. Justin stroked Diana's shoulder. Once again, he didn't understand why she was so scared. Diane whispered that he had reappeared in her life. He had found her even here in Spain. Diane looked up at Justin and asked to go back to the hotel. "I love you, Jane," Justin said. But Diana couldn't take his words adequately. The horror she had experienced, even out of kind, Justin was making a fiend. If the words had come earlier, she would have been glad, but at the moment they only frightened her. Diana sat on the bed and held her head with her hands. She didn't want to drag Justin into her problems. Diana realized that she would have to break up with him. It would keep him safe. Justin walked into the room. Diane asked him if he could spare her some time. She wanted to talk to him. Diane said she wanted to do something with Justin. It would be sure to make him happy. A short time later, they sat on the soft couch covered in plaids and watched a good family movie. Diane turned to Justin and thought that he wanted to protect the whole world, and she would protect him. After watching the movie, they decided to walk along the waterfront. "See? I promised to make you happy this evening," said Diane, turning her head toward Justin. "You know, I've never had strong feelings about watching a movie before, but this time it was different. The fact that I started using strong emotions is your fault." Justin confessed to Diana. "Thank you," mumbled Diana with a smile. "For what?" Justin didn't understand. "For all the wonderful things that happened to me in Spain. It's only because of you that I've been truly happy all these days." Justin realized that something wrong was going on. He asked Diana if she really wanted to disappear from his life. He promised her that in any difficult situation, he could protect her. Silver ran into the room. Right from the doorstep, he said that Diane had paid for the room in full yesterday, and this morning she had packed all her things and left. The driver's word upset Justin. That same day, all the necessary merger documents were signed. The deal was a success. Justin was once again reviewing the paperwork when Silver walked into the room. Justin was head over heels in work. He had organized his schedule so that there wasn't a minute to spare. He hoped that this way he could forget about Diana. Justin worked non-stop for days, and his face began to show signs of fatigue, and driver Silver was worried about his boss. He could see he was barely sleeping. But no matter how hard Justin tried, nothing worked. So he decided to visit his psychologist friend Thomas. Thomas was surprised to see Justin at such a late hour. "Thomas, tell me as a doctor, do all people really have these feelings after a breakup?" "Nah, how could you? Why would you let a girl like that go?" Still from the threshold of the room, his grandmother Edith began to ask him, "And how do you know about us? That you've been following us?" Justin didn't understand how his grandmother could know about their separation. Grandma threw a stack of pictures on the table. They were of Justin and Diane. She admitted that she'd borrowed a detective to keep tabs on them. Grandma just wanted to know what was going on in her grandson's life. Justin began to make excuses. He said that he had only met Diane a couple times, that nothing had happened between them. He also asked his grandmother why she was being so kind to someone she didn't know at all. Grandma Edith told Justin that she had a better opinion of him. She thought he was a judge of character, and he saw what Diane was really like. "I saw the way Diana looked at you. Those were the eyes of a woman in love," Grandma continued. Suddenly, Silver's driver peeked into the room. Justin asked him if he could find the architect, a girl named Diana. After a while, Silver brought Justin unpleasant news for him. Turns out there's no Diane among the architect girls, and she had checked into the hotel under an assumed name. Justin was both angry and surprised. How this young woman could arouse such strong emotions in him. He decided to find her on his own. He even sacrificed his job to do so. Justin decided to go to England, to Diana's homeland. Justin went as far as his grandmother to confront her with the fact. He lied to her that he wanted to look at hotels in England, that he had a desire to purchase a small, cozy hotel there. Grandmother, aka Chairman Edith, asked Justin to be honest with her. She was extremely surprised by his sudden decision. Now he decided to tell the truth. He confessed that he wanted to go to England because Diane was likely to be there. When Diana arrived home, without unpacking her bags, she immediately fell on the bed. Because of all this confusion, because of her emotional swings, she was feeling very weak. Diana felt dizzy. She wanted to find a way out of the situation, but she had absolutely no idea how. At night, she had that terrible dream again. In the dream, Diana was running down a dark corridor, and behind her sounded insidious laughter. A quiet male voice kept whispering that everything that was happening was all her fault. Diana's attitude was extremely confident. She was determined to take the situation into her own hands. She wanted to see it through. With this confidence, she went to her office. The staff was happy to see Diana. They greeted her cheerfully, asked her how she was doing, how she had rested, what she had seen. In order not to waste time in vain, Diana decided to plunge headlong into work. In his office, Simon discussed the latest news with his partner. They were pleased that a major hotel chain was interested in building a hotel in the city. To make it go smoothly, we're going to have to go full steam ahead, and for that we need a strong team, said Simon. What do you think of Jane Hutkins? Asked his partner. Simon admitted that Jane is a pretty good architect. She has won many awards already, and he often sees her at all sorts of competitions. She is a pleasure to work with. What do you think of her as a woman? The partner continued. Simon had to admit that he had liked Jane for a long time. He had met Jane once at another architectural event. The girl just smiled at him, but that was enough for Simon to fall head over heels in love with her. Jean, aka Diana in Spain, was watching the work on the construction site. Someone patted her gently on the shoulder. Jean turned around. It was her old buddy Simon. The guy held out a paper bag to her. Jane was glad to see him. She'd been told that a young professional had joined the team, but she hadn't realized it was Simon. If Diana had looked up at that moment, she would have noticed a man watching them from the upper floors. Watching Jane with Simon, the man became enraged. The man dropped the drill from his hands and it flew downward with a whoosh. "Watch out!" Simon and Diana turned around at the shout. After flying a few floors, the drill fell on the foot of a passing construction worker. Simon and Diana ran to his aid. The man, on the other hand, pulled out his camera and took a few pictures. Diana pulled a belt out of her raincoat and tried to bandage the construction worker's leg. She asked Simon to call an ambulance. "That was quite a surprise," Simon said as the ambulance picked up the construction worker. "I thought we had 3 sites safe." Simon praised Jane for taking control of the situation quickly and decisively. Simon told his partner what had happened. He asked if Jane had been hurt. Simon was wary as to what he meant, why he'd asked that. The partner admitted that he had recently met Gabrielle, Robert's ex-girlfriend. "That's that bastard's ex-girlfriend? Also Jane's ex-boyfriend?" said Simon. "Yes, and she told me that she's being treated in the hospital right now. She's trying to deal with her psychological trauma." Gabrielle revealed that Robert was running her like a puppet. She even wore the clothes he allowed her to wear. He watched what makeup Gabrielle wore, what toilet water she chose. "And worst of all," the partner continued, "the girl thinks she broke up with Robert because of her." A man in a strict black suit handed Robert a clipboard. On it were pictures taken at the construction site. Robert looked at the pictures with a smirk. "Well, Jane, you're all grown up now. It's time for you to come back to me. The only thing is, Justin, keep me posted on any developments," Grandma Edith asked him before leaving. Grandma walked over and gave Robert a hug. She asked him that if he found his Diane, she would never let her go again. Justin returned to the office and announced his decision to everyone. His team was extremely surprised. They didn't expect him to decide to go to England. And on top of that, it would take him at least 6 months to find a suitable hotel, collect and prepare all the necessary documents. Justin replied that he understood all the risks. He would leave all his affairs to his grandmother, who was the chairman, and he would hold meetings remotely. At the airport, Justin and his driver Silver discussed the last details of the trip. Justin admitted to him that he was pretty scared, although it was totally unlike him. Sitting in the meeting, Jane didn't understand why a major hotel chain had decided to expand in this particular city. And on top of that, their staff would have to live here for months on end. Simon replied to her that it was a major hotel chain that suggested they look at potential locations for a hotel. They also agreed to hotels that could be remodeled. Jane was greatly surprised when she heard the name of the large hotel chain. It was the Jerry Group, of which Justin Wilson was the CEO. Objectively, she realized that someone from the company, not necessarily Justin Wilson himself, would be doing all the work. The head of the planning department took the stage. He asked everyone present to draw a random number that would determine the order in which everyone would speak. Jane asked Simon to go and get a number, as she was usually unlucky with numbers. Simon pulled out number 6. He also announced to Jane that the CEO of the Jerry Group, Justin Wilson, had arrived. Justin entered the room with his staff. "This can't be happening," thought Jane. Jane couldn't believe that Justin was here, that he was standing in front of her. Justin saw Jane as well. He thought he was reacting calmly to her presence, but it wasn't like that at all. The dull ache that he thought was gone came back again. Justin took the stage and called his name loudly. Simon saw that Diana was confused. He asked if she was okay. He tried to calm her down by taking her hand. Soon they were to present the bids of the contractors for the project. Simon's driver Silver was waiting for him near the stage. He asked his boss how he was feeling. Silver marveled that they'd found Jane so quickly. Justin, on the other hand, admitted to him that he could barely contain the urge to run up to her to pick her up. Though Justin tried not to show it, he was happy that Diane had turned out to be an architect after all. At least she hadn't fooled him on that one. Walking into the ladies' room, Jane tried to pull herself together. She glanced at herself in the mirror. A pale, frightened girl looked back at her. Jane remembered how she and Justin used to brush their teeth together in the mornings. That memory echoed painfully in her chest. Jane had promised herself that she would cry a little later, but there was no time for that at the moment. She must pull herself together and perform with dignity. Jane walked onto the stage, said hello to everyone, and called out her name. She glanced around the auditorium. Luckily, it was dark. Absolutely no visibility of those present. This helped Jane focus on her words. "Jane Hutkins?" Justin muttered. Justin loved watching Jane during her presentation. She was focused, speaking with confidence. "This concludes our presentation. Please turn on the lights and we will move on to questions and answers," Jane said. The lights came on and Jane saw Justin. In that instant, confidence left her. Jane ordered herself not to back down. She didn't want Justin to see her weak and confused. The questions and answers began. Justin decided to clarify some points for Jane as well. "You said your name was Jane Hutkins, is that true?" was the first question from Justin. The girl was confused. "Yes, of course. Which hotel would you personally choose? One of the Vinos hotel options, or would you favor the traditional Spanish Hotel Palace?" Another question sounded from Justin. "I would choose one of the Vinos hotels." This answer from Jane surprised Justin. Jane continued, "Hotel Palace is close to architectural perfection. I have personally visited it and had a wonderful time as a guest. But the Vinos I would choose because it has a lot of room for improvement." Justin thanked her for her truthful answer. Justin stood from the table and turned to the hall. He thanked everyone for their work and promised that he would contact everyone personally. Justin would continue to watch Jane from the sidelines. He was pleased to see that she had picked herself up, was not afraid to talk to him, the CEO of the Jerry Group, confidently answering his team's questions. Justin was pleased to realize that watching Jane made him feel proud. A girl at the other end of the hall was chatting with Simon. Justin headed in their direction. Justin walked over to them and extended his hand to Simon for a handshake. He thanked them for a job well done. Simon was pleased that their efforts were noticed by the CEO himself. Afterward, Justin said goodbye to them and headed for the exit. Simon decided to praise Jane for a good presentation. The girl was embarrassed and in return thanked him for helping her pull herself together. If it hadn't been for his help, she wouldn't have been able to perform with dignity. Simon jokingly nudged her in the side with his elbow. He asked her not to be modest and invited her to the bar for a drink. Jane apologized by offering to pay for dinner. Jane and Simon chatted sweetly over dinner. They reminisced with a smile about their college years. Simon said that Diane must know someone from the Jerry Group. The girl froze at what she heard. Simon continued by saying that he had noticed Jane tense up when the CEO walked in with his team. Jane replied to him that she thought she knew someone, but she was simply mistaken. Simon decided to work up the courage to ask them the same question that had been troubling him for a long time. "Answer me, please. Why are you still not seeing anyone?" Over dinner, Justin decided to get his team's opinion. He wondered what they thought of today's presentations. Almost everyone remarked on the excellent work of Jane Hutkins. Deep down, Justin was glad that the team had approved Jane's candidacy. He remembered how uncomfortable it had been for him to see a girl sweet-talking another man. Justin realized that he couldn't lose her again. Simon's question caught Jane off guard. She explained to him with a smile that she felt comfortable and alone. She could spend more time working and not sputtering with romantic feelings. Jane asked Simon why he was interested in her personal life. She noted that he didn't have a girlfriend himself. She told Simon that she often heard female co-workers discussing him. If he wanted to, he could have found a date a long time ago. Simon replied that he wasn't ready for a serious relationship at the moment. Simon insisted that he and Jane ride in the same cab. He sat next to the girl and explained to her that he wanted to make sure she got home safely. Although Simon was sitting next to Jane, the situation reminded her of Justin. She remembered how they had also taken car rides around the city together. Simon escorted Jane with his eyes to the door. He wanted to be with her, but he didn't know how to tell her that. He didn't want to lose her. The elevator took Jane up to her apartment. Jane noticed that the elevator passed her floor and started to take the girl higher up. This scared her a lot. The elevator doors opened on the very last floor. When they opened, Jane saw a Matryoshka doll. She looked out into the hallway. Jane hoped to see someone to see what was going on here. At the end of the hallway, Jane saw another Matryoshka doll. She hurried over to it. There was a third Matryoshka doll on the steps. Jay started climbing up the steps to the top. On the roof of the building, she saw a male silhouette. "Yeah, I just can't believe my eyes. How dare you come here? Who let you in here? The girl was indignant. Hi, how are you doing? Asked Robert. Did you come here to ask how I'm doing? Resented Jane. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? And you still call what happened an unfortunate mistake? Yelled Jane at him. She was annoyed at the way he was acting, confident and disgustingly casual. My mistake was only that I thought you belonged to me completely, Robert replied in a calm voice. Do you even realize what you're saying? A man is dead. Is it just a mistake to you? Jane did not relent. You forgot one thing, said Robert, stepping closer. What do you think your mistake was? What exactly did you do wrong? Jane didn't understand what Robert was getting at. Answer me! Shouted Robert in her face. Robert took Jane by the back of her head and pulled her close to him. Jane, my sweet Jane, he whispered into her ear. You better know the answer to that question the next time we meet you, said Robert, removing his hand from her shoulder. Already leaving, Robert asked Jane not to make the same mistake twice. Okay, Robert, I'll think about it, but I have a question for you too. Turning to follow him, Jane said, You've really grown up, said a pleasantly surprised Robert. He was amused by her boldness. How does it feel to make your family accomplices? Give me a truthful answer to that question. After all, it was your father who covered up that incident to protect you, Jane said with confidence in her voice. Robert pretended not to understand her question at all. He called it silly. Why should I feel any sense of remorse? After all, everything that has happened has only turned out for the better for me. A dark gray car was speeding through the city. Robert was sitting in it, talking to someone on the phone. A stern voice was asking him why he was seeing that girl again. Robert started to get nervous. He realized he was being followed. He asked not to do it again. The stern voice on the phone didn't stop. It kept yelling for Robert to never see that girl again. Robert even had to move the phone away from his ear so he wouldn't accidentally go deaf. Don't worry, Robert mumbled. Once I become chairman, I'll never bring you trouble again. The voices on the other end of the wire gasped at such insolence. Why would Robert think that after all he had done, he would be handed the company? And remember what you did for me. What if people find out about it? What if I go and turn myself into the police? Absolutely tired and emotionally crushed, Jane returned home. Jane washed her face to slightly relax and relieve her emotional stress. Jane pondered Robert's words. He said that he was angry because some people expected him to reward them as if they had done something good, when in fact he hadn't asked for help. After those words, Jane was definitely sure Robert was to blame for this incident. Jane went into the hall and turned on the TV. There was a story about a candidate of the ruling party. Today he was visiting an animal shelter. Diane was looking at the autopsy results. In the background, the announcer was telling her that the election would be held in 4 months. So I have 4 months left, Jane whispered. Silver walked into Justin's room. He reported that Jane's company had won the construction bid. Justin was extremely happy about this. Justin grabbed his jacket off the rack and hurried to Jane's office. He had waited so long for this moment. Jane was sitting at her office desk doing her usual routine work. Footsteps were heard in the hallway. The whole office turned around to the person who entered. It was Justin. Jane was surprised to see him here. She said that if he needed something, he could send one of his subordinates instead of coming in person. Justin said that he came in person to tell them the results of the tender. Jane asked everyone to leave the office. She was scared in case Justin would ask her something about Spain. Justin walked up to Jane. Jane took a few steps back. Her thighs rested on the desk. There was nowhere to retreat further. Justin looked into the girl's eyes and said in an affirmative voice that he didn't see her eyes of surprise at all. Here's what I was thinking. Is it possible that you could have forgotten about what happened between us? No, of course not. How could I have forgotten it all? Jane thought as the whole past came back to her all at once. Justin touched the girl's hand. It was just as warm as Jane remembered it. Justin said, looking into her eyes, that he was grateful that she remembered their past together. I came to tell you that our company has decided to partner with you. Jane thanked Justin for coming to tell her this happy news, but asked him to leave. I'm so happy to see you, Justin said gently. I've missed you to the point where it's like my body is magnetically drawn to you. Well, why are you so confused? Do you want me to set up a meeting with your CEO tomorrow? The three of us will have dinner somewhere. Justin took Jane's hand and congratulated her again on her win. He said he would be happy to work with her. When Justin left, Jane sat down at the table and wrapped her arms around her head. She was both pleased that Justin remembered the time spent with her, but on the other hand, she felt embarrassed about it. Now, the main thing is to make sure that our relationship with Justin doesn't interfere with our work together. Jane was even beginning to think about making Simon in charge of the project and leaving it. Simon entered the office, approached Jane, and asked why Justin Wilson was looking for her and not their CEO. Jane replied that it was because she was the bid speaker. After work, Justin and Silver decided to relax at one of the bars in town. Silver said that he had some news for Justin. "Remember you asked me if Jane was seeing someone and what her relationship with Simon was like?" "Iron Fortress," Silver said. Justin didn't understand the meaning of Silver's words. Tom had to clarify that at work, Jane is called an Iron Fortress. She is closed off from everyone and doesn't let anyone near her. Roughly speaking, she's like a fortress you can't enter. Silver suggested that Jane is a lesbian, to which Justin exclaimed that it simply could not be. Looking at his boss, Silver said he didn't understand him at all. From his look, he can't understand whether Justin liked that Jane was called an Iron Fortress, or, on the contrary, he was upset about it. "I never thought I would ever have dinner with Justin Wilson," said Edward. He was Jane's boss and also her sister's husband. Simon was sitting next to him. He was looking at the situation around him. Jane was waiting for Justin outside the elevator. She wanted to talk to him, to tell him that their relationship was business only. As soon as Justin stepped out of the elevator, Jane called out to him. Jane told Justin that she would do her best to create a hotel that would satisfy him. And what had happened between them was just an isolated episode, and it wouldn't happen again. "So from now on, please treat me as a business partner." Justin had something to say to her too. "What makes you think I need a hotel in this particular city? What makes you think that if I perceived you as a business partner that I would come here in person?" Edward told Justin that Jane and Simon would be in charge of the project from now on. Therefore, any questions could be directed to them. Jane wasn't much of a talker that evening. She couldn't even taste the food. She was constantly thinking about Justin. All her attention was focused on him, on his words. Justin said that he wanted his team's offices and Jane's team's offices to be next to each other. He thought it would make their work easier. That's why he'd invited them to dinner. "Please, no," ran through Jane's mind. "That's a great idea," said Edward, ignoring Jane's startled eyes. "The fact that we'll always be around will speed up the work process." A man in black was watching their dinner from around the corner. He dialed someone's number and spoke a few words into the receiver. Edward's cell phone rang. He apologized to everyone and asked for decisions to leave them for a few minutes. "Mr. Wilson, CEO of the Jerry Group?" asked a male voice next to their table. "Yes, that's me, and who are you?" asked Justin. "My name is Robert Wilkins. I own several hotels in England." Jane couldn't believe what was happening. She realized that Robert had asked someone to call Edward and then had the nerve to walk up to them. Robert said he was glad to hear about the upcoming construction of the hotel, and he was surprised to learn that it would be built by the largest hotel chain, the Jerry Group. Jane called for the waiter. Jane explained to the waitress that a stranger had walked up to them and sat in a seat that was originally occupied by another person. She asked to resolve as this situation, to ask the man to leave. "Miss Hutkins, that's a rather difficult request," Robert said with a smirk. "I doubt any of these employees would kick out the CEO of their own company. We're known for training our employees well." Robert continued to press Jane with his words. "I'll be leaving soon, so stop bothering my employee. Let him do his job in comfort." It was Simon who decided to stand up for Jane. He rose from his seat and asked Robert to leave. Robert got up from the table and before leaving promised everyone that they would all meet soon. Justin silently watched the whole situation from the sidelines and didn't understand what was going on at all. Jane was once again standing by the elevator. Only this time she was waiting for Robert. Robert approached Jane with the words, "People are such amazing creatures that they even forget things they shouldn't. Like this lipstick, this hairstyle, these shoes, for example. And mind you, Jane, even that situation doesn't suit you." Robert pushed Jane into the room. He said he wanted her to think about where she really belonged. Or did she want someone's life to be ruined again? "You asked me a question last time," Jane starts to say. "You asked if I knew what mistake I'd made. I thought about it for a long time, and now I know what a mistake I made. I was simply afraid of you. I was afraid of an insignificant man like you." In a firm voice, looking into Robert's eyes, Jane said, "And don't hide the fact that a woman like me doesn't belong to you. By the way, feel free to come to me anytime, I'll be waiting. Already walking away, Jane told Robert.